Hey everyone, so this is my third look for the series that I have going on at the moment, and of course it's Rooney Mara inspired, as I mentioned last week. So this look was mainly inspired by her, or it was fully inspired really, by the look that she wore to the, I think it was the Met Gala ball, which the theme was kind of punk inspired, and I just think she looked flawless. Now she wasn't rocking her normal fringe, but since I just got my fringe cut in there a couple of days ago, I wasn't about to pin it back. Anyone can tell you when they get a fringe newly in, you don't want to get rid of it straight away. So even though it's a very pared back look, I went into a little bit of detail on the basics just so that you understand that maybe these more simple looking looks aren't just thrown on. There is a lot of preparation and, you know, thought put into the application. So enjoy. Thanks a million for watching, guys. I'm just going to throw my fringe to the side when I'm doing the makeup, and I'll fix it up afterwards. But since this look is very heavily about skin to start off with, I made sure that I prepped it well. So I started off with a serum. This is the new one by Vichy, the Idealia Life Serum. So this is a really hydrating serum, so you don't really need to use a moisturiser with this unless you are particularly dry. I'm not very dry at the moment, so it's fine by itself. And then again, because it is such a skin focus, I'm definitely going to use a primer. Now I got this Perfectionist serum by Estee Lauder a few weeks ago, and I have been trying it out on and off. I kind of knew that I'm a bit young for it, but I still wanted to see kind of how it works and stuff like that. One thing that I've kind of realised by using it is that it works brilliantly as a primer. The first ingredient is silicone. It's a very silicone feeling serum. That's why I think it's kind of funny, because you'd kind of wonder how does it absorb into the skin and do its work when it is a silicone kind of feel, because silicone tends to just sit on top of the skin. Regardless of that, it feels lovely on the skin, and I did say how it gives that lovely cushiony spongy feel, so that's why I've been loving this as a primer. And it does kind of seem to fill in any areas. I think it's just because it has a slightly thicker cushiony feeling, so I'm just putting that around the centre areas of my face where I get a little bit shiny throughout the day. Rooney keeps her skin this beautiful, well, in general she tends to keep it quite matte, like a semi-natural matte, and what I'm going to use for that is Match Master by MAC. I'm going to use number 1. She has paler skin even than my own, I think. I think I have a little bit more kind of yellowness to my skin, whereas she seems to be very, very neutral. And then this one here by MAC, which is the number 1, is a very light neutral tone. The Match Master works with both tones, whether they be, you know, warm and cool, and so it's perfect if you want to knock out tones as such in the skin. It's not going to enhance, say, the cool tone in my skin. So I just popped a little bit on the back of my hand. I'm going to use my Real Technique stippling brush. I've mentioned a million times before, I don't like very heavy foundations. I'd much rather go with a medium foundation and then use a concealer on top to, you know, to really perfect it, to take away the look of any of imperfections like these. So I'm just going to buff this in place. There's no kind of special method for it. Next I'm going to use some of my Pro Longwear Concealer by MAC in the colour NW20. I find even though my skin is very pale, if I use an 15, whether it be NW or NC around the eye, it just isn't strong enough in pigment to cover the darkness, and it just is too light. So the 20 I find works perfectly. And just buff that in around the eye area. I particularly love this Pro Longwear Concealer for the eye area because you don't need to set it with powder. So for anyone who worries about their skin looking dry, this is lovely because it's not a particularly drying concealer. It does set, and it means that you don't have to set it with powder in that case. So I kind of buff it in with the brush and then just dab it in or pat it in then with my fingers. The Pro Longwear Concealer works brilliantly as an eye primer because it does have those film forming properties, same as the MAC Face and Body, which is what makes it, you know, so long lasting and pretty non-transferable. And then to perfect the skin, I'm going to stick with MAC again, and this is the Full Coverage Foundation in NC15. This is a brilliant foundation slash concealer. It works really well at covering up any imperfections, but you can really work it well into the skin so that it doesn't look very obvious. And I'm going to do the same kind of blending and patting motions as I did with the Pro Longwear Concealer. So I'll use the brush to pat it, or to blend it into the skin first, and then pat it and melt it in place with my finger. Now to finish off my base, I'm actually going to go in with another concealer. Well, this is more of a highlighting concealer, and again it's a MAC product. It's the Prep and Prime highlighter in Radiant Rose. So I know it seems like I'm doing a lot of work on the skin, but it is a focus feature of this look. And I'm going to just pop a little bit on the back of my hand. This is perfect for that pale porcelain skin look because it is such a light, cool pink, so it's quite brightening. I'm going to use this kind of to highlight. Because her skin is a natural matte, it doesn't mean it has to be totally flat. So you can use a highlighter like this that isn't shimmery or, you know, particularly wet looking, but it'll still lift the skin. I'm also going to pop this just underneath the eye area, on the darkest area. I would never rely on a highlighter by itself as a concealer, but it's grand as on top of concealers as long as you've already knocked out the darkness. I'm also going to pop a tiny bit down just the centre of my nose, and I'm patting it rather than rubbing it on because I don't want to move the concealer that was on underneath. And I'm also applying a little bit to the Cupid's bow since her own one was, and again, very subtly highlighted. And then to set everything in place, I'm going to use my Prep and Prime Transparent Finishing Powder by MAC. This is a white translucent powder. It is supposed to be for every skin tone. I find it can be a bit ashy even when used carefully on the darker skin tones, but it's fine on light skin tone. You have to be careful not to go overboard with it though, because if you put on too much of it, it will show up kind of like flour when you have a camera flash hitting it, so be careful with it. But I'm going to use my Real Techniques powder brush. Well, actually it's the Real Techniques blusher brush that I use, but it's huge. Now for the eyeshadow, and it's pretty minimalist, there's very little going on. So for the overall eye colour, I'm going to use this colour here by Inglot. I will insert the colour below on my blog on the used product list. Apply this all over the moving part of my lid. I love these eyeshadows because they're matte without being powdery, and I don't want it to look very powdery. I'm also going to apply a little bit of this using the tip of my brush underneath the lower lash line to take away any darkness. And for the brow highlight, again, there's no shimmer really, so I'm just going to go into this lighter colour here again. It's not quite white, and I'm going to use this first underneath the brow bone, and then just to add a tiny bit more lift, I am going into a slightly, it's not glittery but it has a shine to it. I think it's White Frost by MAC. And just very lightly run that over. I don't want it to be very stark, just so that it has a slight more kind of light reflective property to it. So I'm kind of running over my finger as well to take down too high of a shine. And she has or rather her makeup artist has ever so subtly contoured over the crease line. So I'm going to use this colour. It's Kid by MAC. It's very, very light. It's perfect for that really natural contour, and just go back and forth over the crease, so make sure you're not coming down onto the moving part of the lid. And work it up into the eyebrow so it looks like a natural shadow. For her eyebrows, which of course are the main focus feature apart from the lips, like the primary focus feature. So first of all, I'm going to start off by just brushing my eyebrows. I'm going to use a powder for this. I don't want to use a pencil because that can be a bit much. I'm going to use a very thin angle brush. This is a paintbrush by Delevingne, which is my favourite kind of angle brush. So I'm going to go into this brow powder, which I know I've been overusing lately. It's the Catrice one. And I'm going to just, first of all, try and get a really perfect straight line underneath. So her eyebrows in this particular look, they're not, the outline isn't very natural looking, as in it's just perfect. It's absolutely immaculate. So I'm just going to brush down the hairs first and then just draw kind of a line up here. I won't worry about getting it as perfect as hers because I think my eyebrows are a little bit thicker than hers, and if I was to overline the eyebrows like over where the hairs are, they'd look really, really thick, and I don't want to go that thick. So I'm just going along the top of where the eyebrow hairs start, and then it's quite rounded up here along the arch, and then her eyebrows were extended down and tapered off perfectly. I'm just going to go ahead and do the same to the other brow. Now I know these eyebrows seem quite severe, severe structured shape, but the theme of the ball was punk. I think it was like punk, modern punk or something like that, or punk chic, so it does kind of suit the theme. And always just make sure if you have a lot of eyebrow hairs to set them in place with the gel. At this stage, before we go on, I'm going to apply a little bit of a lip primer to my lips so that it sets by the time we get to doing the lipstick. Of course, to finish off the eyes, she has false lashes on, which I think are really important for this kind of look when you are somewhere where you're going to be photographed a lot and you want to look your best and you want to make sure the eyes don't totally disappear. I'm just not going to use them today because I don't have a spare pair on me similar to those ones like that are really light and fluttery with an almost invisible band. I need to stock up on my eyelashes. I'm just going to apply plenty of mascara now. So this will be, you know, again for people who don't like to wear false lashes, I'll just show you how to like volumize your lashes. So I'm going to do my bottom lashes first in this case and then just brush them down. I like to use one of those defining brushes. So a defining brush is one like this where you can see all the bristles. Bristles on the brush itself are really defined, and when that happens that means that it's going to be defining on your own lashes. So this is the number 7 exceptional definition, so that's kind of a no-brainer. I like these ones that have a little ball at the top because you can use the ball to separate lashes then. Now another trick I love for when I'm going for quite full on lashes but without false lashes is to use 2 different mascaras. So I like to use a defining and lengthening mascara to start off with to separate the lashes so they're not clumpy and to give that length, and then I'm going to go in with a more volumizing one afterwards for the second layer. So I'm going to use this exceptional definition one first of all as my first layer. Try and be careful not to put too much pressure on it so that it actually hits the skin behind the lashes, because since there's no eyeliner there, it will show up. So you have to kind of be careful. If that does happen though, just clean it up with a cotton bud and then reapply your eyeshadow. And then before the first coating of mascara dries, that's when you go in and put your second coating. So you want to make sure it's not totally dry, but it can't be too wet either. And I'm going to use my MAC in Extreme Dimension one. So if you are doubling up your mascaras, always make sure you do the lengthening mascara or the defining one first, and the volumizing mascara is always the second layer to go on. And you can see there it gives a really nice voluminous effect. But I have that length as well. Now one thing that is important is if you make a mistake, make sure your mascara has dried on your lashes before you clean it off behind, because otherwise you can make the hairs stick together and then it'll look clumpy. So just be careful with that. And then for the lips, you want to use a dark, very, very, very dark, like winey, browny, reddy lip pencil. Something like Night Moth by MAC would be perfect, or Vino, something really, really dark. I don't really have anything that dark on me at the moment, so what I'm going to do is kind of mix a brown eye pencil with Auburn lip pencil by MAC. So I'm going to start off with the brown eye pencil. So this is one by Ben Nye. It's a Magicolor Cream pencil and it's in warm brown, and I wanted to go for warm brown because I want it to be red based. Fill in the entire lip, rub the lips together, and then when I have that done, I'm not worrying too much about the outline, I'm going to go in with my Auburn. Now those two colours are kind of mashed together now, so I'm going to go and use the brown pencil again to perfect the line. Another good thing, now that I'm looking at the colour a bit closely, you nearly would have been better off using a purple eyeliner mixed in with the brown. And in fact, I'm actually going to go over with purple really quickly. And that's given me more of that dark grape colour I want, but like I said, if you had Vino or something like that by MAC, it would make life so much easier. Then for the lipstick, I'm going to use this colour by Inglot. I'm going to put the colour on the used product list, because I don't have it on hand here, but it's a really darkened, blackened kind of grape colour. And I'm just going to use a slightly bigger brush first to apply it onto the body of the lips. And I'm actually going to move to a smaller eyeliner brush. This is the one that comes with the Maybelline gel eyeliner. And I'm going to use that then to perfect the outline. And then I'm just going to apply a tiny bit of that more full-on purple shade right into the centre to kind of give the illusion of a bit of a highlight without actually putting anything lighter or, you know, kind of overly light reflective there. Now her skin looks absolutely perfect. Like there doesn't look like there's anything on top of it. It looks very plain, but it doesn't look flat. So I think that she's used very subtle contouring. So I'm going to use my Illamasqua powder brush in Primal. Again, this has been discontinued, so using something like that Kid eyeshadow by MAC, or something that's only a couple of shades up from your own skin colour, but not necessarily skin colour. You want it to be a little bit greyed, a little bit sepia looking almost. And just apply that very lightly into the contours of the face. Now, she just has a very slim, very defined face, so it's good as well if you have slightly fuller face and you want to get a bit more definition. That's it. So I'm just going to fix up my fringe. So there's my Rooney Mara inspired makeup look. It was, like I said, from the Gala Met Ball that was on recently, the kind of punk inspired one. And next week I think I'm going to take the focus away from the lips, and we're going to be doing one of the Keira Knightley signature smoky eyes. And I'll be seeing you then. So thanks a million for watching, guys. Chat to you soon. Slán.